What's going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. I'll have links to some of these books down below. You can check those out, and it's a great way to help support the channel. But let's talk about Marvel first. We have Null issue number 3 with Al Ewing and Ramirez on the art. I've actually enjoyed this series quite a bit. Now, it helps that we had Thanos in there, who's one of my favorite villains of all time, but we're playing around with a lot of cool things. We have Hela trying to siphon some of the power that Null used to have. We have Null roaming the cosmos for some really important artifacts and trying to regain the power he used to have. Then we also have Thanos. He's doing what Thanos does best, trying to be intimidating, trying to have that army that's just going to take on whatever threat comes his way. And we have a great exploration of past events when Null was rising to power and taking on his opposite, right? Using the All Light. That's the name of the game right now, trying to get back that artifact, the opposite of the All Black, and trying to use that to regain some of Null's past powers. Now, we're still playing around with a lot of the lore around the Illuminary King, right? The Light King versus the Black King inside the story. So we are playing a little bit more with that and some of their origins, or maybe some of the different landscapes that they've come from. So I think we're dealing with new ideas and new territory towards the end of this book, which has got me excited. Ramirez is doing an incredible job on the art. I love the way that he's portraying all these battles, making everything seem really kinetic and energized. And like I said, I do enjoy the fact that we're playing around with a little bit more of the lore of the concepts of the light and the black throughout the series. So it's doing a lot of cool things, doing a lot of interesting things. Thanos is going to be stepping aside for a little bit inside the story. We'll see if my interest continues on issue number 4, though. But let me know if you're reading all down below. All right, next up is Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon. We have issue number 2 out. Now, Chip Zdarsky is on this one. I didn't quite enjoy issue number 1. It seemed like your run-of-the-mill Wolverine book. All the typical tropes that you would see in Wolverine, those were brought forth inside of issue number 1. Now, issue number 2 steps it up a little bit. We introduce a few more characters. We do a little bit of a tie-in with the Captain America run that Chip is also doing, bringing in some characters into there. So there's a little bit of synergy going on from that point of view. Now, Nuke was also introduced in the previous issue. It's really exciting to see him starting to battle Wolverine and some of his allies in this issue. Some high stakes in here, a lot of high tempers, and a lot of revenge happening in this side of this issue. So I'm excited to see where it goes from there. Now, the art hasn't totally won me over yet, but it's doing its job at the moment. It's keeping me interested at least. So this is a series I might stick around for a few more issues to see if it kind of amps it up a little bit more. It's just not quite there yet for me. All right, let's go over to DC next with Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 18. So Kelly Thompson on this one. Of course, we have Hayden Sherman on the art. Love this whole Suicide Squad Zatanna thing that we got going on right here. We do understand Zatanna's motives, why she's doing what she's doing, and this mysterious foe we got introduced to in the previous issue. Now, I think the exciting thing in here is we have witch on witch action. We actually get to see Diana regain control of her powers and take on Zatanna head to head. It sort of reminded me of like Dumbledore taking on Voldemort in that moment where they're just trading blows back and forth. So it was really cool to see how they each use their powers individually against each other. But you know, towards the end of this, we learn the true motives of Zatanna. Why is she doing what she's doing? Her and Diana are now aligned on a common goal, and we're going to be heading that way in future issues. Now, I've said this 1,000 times before. Absolute Wonder Woman is one of my favorite Absolute books on the shelf. Between that, Batman, and Martian Manhunter, you can't go wrong with any 3 of them. Wonder Woman, though, has been such a consistent, great addition to this Absolute line. I feel like it's a different vibe than the other 2 books, for sure. It's very straightforward. It has a great Absolute voice, and Diana is just amazing through the entire thing. All right, next up we have Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 10. Dennis Camp on this one. We have Javier Rodriguez doing the art. Some of the best interior artwork in comics that you're going to find. It's a very trippy style. It doesn't have that, you know, anatomically correct photorealism. It's a very trippy, acid dream-like state interior artwork. So if you're into the psychedelic, the surreal artwork, I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Now, from a story point of view, we have John and the Martian still separate at the moment. They're trying to come back together. There's a lot of forces at work trying to separate those two, trying to isolate the Martian, trying to weaponize them, trying to understand what that power set is. We also have the White Martian involved still. We have him influencing John, or inside of John at the moment, and he's using that power to kind of influence people around them as well, like the mom or John's wife, for instance. So it's gonna be cool to see where this story goes, how we're gonna bring all of our people back together, and what's going to be like the conclusion of this run. That's got me interested. There's only a few more issues left. Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, next up is the DC Marvel crossover, Superman, Spider-Man. This book had many different stories inside. A lot of them hit. A lot of them were really interesting, especially the very first one where we have this Doc Ock Brainiac collaboration to take on Superman and and Spider-Man. I did like the way that they were able to integrate some of the villains. Like Brainiac is infested with this virus right now. He finds a way to rid himself of that, but it impacts everybody down on Earth. Doc Ock can actually absorb some of like the kryptonite type technology and integrate that inside of his suit. So there's interesting battles that take place. They kind of cross villains a little bit, and they take on each other's foes, as they should in these kinds of books. So that story and a couple more really blew me away. There's another interesting one with Power Girl and Punisher. That book was insane. We have Paul showing up in there too. Turns out to be like a blind date kind of an issue. Love that one. And, you know, shout out to your boy Punisher at the end there. We had another one with Mary Jane and Lois Lane watching their guys take on a threat over on a bridge, just comparing some notes of what it's like to be with somebody that is a superpowered person. And it didn't hurt that we had a guest appearance of Gambit inside that one taking on a Sentinel. So that was a really good one as well. We also had some guest appearance from like Superboy Prime. We had Spider-Man 2099. So we had a lot of cool characters mixed up together. Like I said, the majority of the stories in here were pretty great. I really liked that first one though with Brainiac and Doc Ock. I thought that was the best one of all of them. But yeah, let me know down below which one of those stories was your favorite. Like I said, there's a whole bunch to pick from that I thought were pretty decent. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. All right, next up is The Peril of Brutal Dark, Ezra Kane Mystery Issue number 2. Chris Condon, Jacob Phillips on that one. Say that one 10 times fast. So this book reminds me of an Indiana Jones story. What I mean by that is it's a little bit of a period piece. We have a detective noir kind of a vibe book, and Jacob Phillips does a beautiful job of portraying those different characters and the landscapes and putting you in the mood for that kind of a story. But it also has this mystic element to it, like an Indiana Jones story would. So it's a great blend of just themes in general, and it's something a little bit familiar. It feels comfortable to be in that kind of a situation, having that kind of story in front of us. And it makes you think, like, how insane are they going to get with this whole thing, right? How are they going to balance that classic vibe with that mysterious element? What's that going to look like at the end when these artifacts or whatever they might be are in the wrong hands or the right hands? How are they going to be utilized, and how's that going to impact the vibe of the book in general? Now, so far, it's a very grounded book. We've just gotten some story time, essentially, throughout the last couple of issues. We haven't seen anything insane just yet, but I feel like we're going to be getting there as the story unfolds. I'm not in any rush to get into that. I'm having a good time where we are right now with just that looming threat still on the horizon. I like where we are right now. It's a really great book, great vibes, like I said. Let me know if you guys are reading this one and what your other favorite DC Vertigo books are so far. All right, let's go over to Dark Horse. We have Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Men, issue number 4. Mignola on this one, and we have Jesse Lonergan doing the art. I don't even know how to review this book anymore. I don't know anything about the story at this point, man. I will say this. Jesse Lonergan on the art. He is, like I've said many, many times before, he is a master of visual storytelling. He knows exactly how to guide your eye through the entire page. You're not going to be skipping pages. You're not going to be taking just brisk looks from page to page. You are going to look at every single aspect of the page. You're going to enjoy that. And whatever story you can glean from it, hey, that's great for you. There's some kind of connection with Miss Truesdale and Hellboy that I just can't figure out at this moment. There might have been some clues in this issue. I haven't really deciphered them just yet. There is a relationship that she has with another woman that they explore too a little bit, either a little bit in this volume or the previous one. And so they may have some kind of relationship that's being explored through this one as well. Also, what we learn in the story is there's a little bit of Adam and Eve happening in here too, like the first man, the rise of man inside here. There's a lot of other nature forces at work trying to hold down, I suppose, man in here, but there's an evolution of that in this story. But again, the whole Miss Truesdale, Hellboy, like what was she doing in this thing? So I'm putting out a call right now to all you guys. Explain it for me, dumb it down for me over in the comments. Either way, I had a great time looking at it because Jesse is a master of the craft. All right, Mad Cave bringing us a few books this week. We have Is Ted Okay issue number 2. We have David Grisham on this one. This book is a combination of a lot of familiar things. We have a little bit of a Fight Club element there where you just feel like you're in the wrong place. You're in a cubicle. You're surrounded by automation. You're surrounded by whatever it is, just nonsense, absurdity, right? You're losing your mind a little bit. There's all these conspiracies that you're thinking of. You're getting all these evidence of like aliens and things just not being right. We also have a little bit of a Matrix things going on, right? Where things are different. There's just like this veil you can't quite get through. There's also a little bit of Blade Runner in there with like this futuristic vibe and feel to it. There's obviously a Big Brother element to this story as well. We have Sarah, that's the person that's watching Ted at this moment. And, you know, she's responsible for his safety. She takes it a few steps too far. She has a management team above her who really doesn't care, honestly, about what's going on. So she does take it upon herself to be a little bit more personal, get a little closer than she should with Ted. And now she's having to deal with this relationship. How does she keep herself safe and keep him safe at the same time. We also do a lot of world building in this issue too, not only in Ted and his building that he works in. There's a lot of weird stuff happening in there, almost like a Matrix type of a thing with these pods of humans everywhere, but also the guy that's like running this entire ecosystem as well. We tap into his background a little bit as well too. And so there's a lot of interesting things happening here, man. This is a very much of it's a heavy book. It's a deep book. It's a darker book for sure. So I'm really anxious to see where it goes. It feels like it's going to be something special at the end of the day. So jump on this book. I think you're going to have a good time with it, but just be aware it is pretty heavy. All right, continuing Mad Cave, we have Honor and Curse issue number 1. So if you're into Japanese culture, if you're into Japanese mythology, I think this might be a cool book for you. It is basically about a man who is kind of immortal at this moment. He's actually possessed by the Tengu, I think it's pronounced. And so basically it's this spirit of like war and destruction, right? He understands that it's a dangerous relationship to be in. And so he kind of compartmentalizes himself from this demon, locks it away, is able to live for a very long time, hundreds of years. He builds an empire around himself just based on the knowledge that he's gathered over time. And so he's kind of living in seclusion at the moment with this demon kind of locked away physically and spiritually in his mind. Now he does have to deal with some past threats as they're taking out like shrines that were dedicated towards his family and different things like that, kidnapping certain people through different bloodlines of his family tree and some of his friends as well. He's having to contemplate whether or not to bring that demon back into him and really become the monster that he used to be and take on these threats in the modern world. And that's where we are right now. We have a lot of these old threats creeping back up. We have this demon we locked away. So now we have to unleash that power again to get revenge on the people messing with us now. So it's a pretty good issue number 1. It really does set the stage. It tells you what the stakes are. The pacing was a little bit janky, I would say, when he's making that decision to finally tap back into that power source. But it's an interesting story. They really set the stage for something unique and different, I think. And I recommend checking it out. The art's really solid too. I think it plays to the strengths of the story. And I think it's something you should check out if you have the chance to. Next up is the Florida Hippopotamus Cocaine Massacre issue number 2 from Mad Cave. We have Kennedy on this one and Clark doing the art. This is satire to the extreme. I love this story and I love the fact that you laugh out loud 2 or 3 times per page, preposterous characters, even more preposterous situation. Now the story does feature a Walt Disney type of an analog character. He's actually a drug lord and there's all these different teams that are trying to do this bust, this raid at this moment over at the park while a hurricane is coming through. Now every single character in the story is absurd. Again, satire is at 11 throughout this entire book. Edward James Clark is doing an amazing job on the art style. It's perfectly matching what's going on inside of the story. Again, it's satire at the extreme. Every single character is absurd circumstances. You have basically Walt Disney as a drug lord during a hurricane with hippopotamuses all jacked up on the newest version of cocaine. It's an insane premise and it totally works. Really enjoyed this one. Let me know if you guys are getting it. All right, let's go over to Oni next. We have Spirit of the Shadows issue number 3, Daniel Ziegler. We have Nick Cagnetti on the art. This book reminds me a lot of what Absolute Martian Manhunter is doing from a visual point of view. Cagnetti's art is very bright, it's very vibrant, it's trippy, it's all over the place. There's many different layers to it. So aesthetically, it's in that same class, I'd say. The story is interesting too. We basically have a guy who's been alive. He's been resurrected many different times. His memory is a little bit foggy. He was in love with a girl. He was murdered because of that. And so he's having this desire to, bring her back or bring himself back to her. There's also some other shady characters that he's mixed up with, some grave robbers, some guys that are dealing with, not like the occult, but like trying to bring people back from the dead, like that mad scientist kind of thing. We also have witches that are on revenge missions because their sisters were taken advantage of and like dug up and desecrated and experimented on. So we have that element thrown into here as well. And we have like this unreliable narrator main character that we're trying to live through and trying to understand and trying to process the whole story as we go. So again, there's a lot of cool things happening inside the book. It doesn't spoon feed you everything. The visuals are outstanding. There's this death and resurrection idea behind everything too. And it's a murder mystery. It's a spirit book. It's funny. It's bright. It's vibrant. It's got a cool vibe to it, I would say. It also doesn't take itself too seriously, so it's a really great palate cleanser after reading books like, Is Ted Okay? Or something like that. This seems like a book that a lot of people might be sleeping on. It's been a fun read so far. We're only 3 issues in. I'm excited to see more of this one. Let me know if you're reading it. All right, next up, we're going to go over to Titan Comics with Conan the Barbarian issue number 30. Jim's up on this one. We have Birthway doing the art. Now, of course, the great thing about Conan is there's a lot of seeds that they plant in previous issues, previous arcs a long time ago. We get little references to them as the story progresses. Most recently, we had the Woeful Eye. We We have this clan that's devoted to that, coming in and adopting this new child, the Son of Tooth. Now, the Son of Tooth, he's a character that we saw in the previous issue. I believe that was his first appearance. He's kind of a Cain type character. There's a lot of murder that was happening inside of his clan. He was responsible for that. He was somewhat possessed throughout that entire process. He's an adult now. He's very, very strong. He's very formidable, right? And he's hunting down Conan right now. Now, this character becomes obsessed with Conan. This is the guy that took on Tulsa Doom. And so he's like, this guy must be something spectacular, something beyond, right? And he realizes he's just a regular man, but he's very formidable. He has a lot of battle history, and he's been there and done that. And that's really what this book is all about. Him stalking Conan, land to land, town to town, tavern to tavern, just to get a sense of like who this character really is. Now, throughout the issue, we're led to believe that the Son of Tooth could have taken out Conan pretty much at any moment. Conan's really vulnerable in a lot of different situations in this issue, but Conan's wise to this entire game too, and we're going to get an epic battle coming up in the next issue. What they're doing right in this story is they're introducing this new character. There's a lot of gravity, there's a lot of weight, and there's a lot of respect behind the character because of how well they were introduced in the previous issue. But they're going up against Conan too. Conan's been there and done that, man. Now, we're obviously going to get our standoff in the next issue, but I don't want a clean-cut winner, so to speak, in here because I like Son of Tooth. I think he's a cool character. I think they could do more with him in the future. That's probably where they're going to go with this one. Great story so far, though. Can't wait for more. Let me know if you're reading it. All right, let's close it out in Image. We have Hyde Street issue number 11. Of course, we have Jeff Johns and Ivan Reyes on this one. Man, we have the Butcher inside this issue. He was introduced in the previous one, and he shows up in full effect inside this issue, teaming up with Pranky in here. We get a little glimpse as to Pranky's origin story, where he came from, who his mother was, who his father was, and his upbringing. That was a really cool surprise to see in this one. Now, the Butcher has some information about Hyde Street in general and about the scorekeeper and how he's manipulating the scene, and his promise isn't exactly what he will deliver when the time comes. When you deliver enough souls to him, are you really going to get that escape that you're looking for, or is there a trick behind that? So we plant the seeds of doubt inside that, and so we're going to be teaming up with this character going forward and trying to work our way around the rules right now inside of Hyde Street, and I can't wait to see more characters wrapped into that and what it ultimately means for our characters. I've also said this a lot before, but Hyde Street is just a really great book to get into, man. It gives you that horror vibe all year round. There are a lot of great, interesting characters. They're interconnected in really fun ways, and I think the world that they built inside of Hyde Street is really interesting and pretty unique. All right, let's wrap it up with White Sky issue number 2. So I think this book might have an unfair lens on it because issue number 1 was part of those releases that came out a little while ago where they were selling out instantly, going to second print immediately, selling for $40 the day after release date. So that kind of made a lot of people upset and some people some money. I also heard a lot of mixed reviews about it too. Some people really enjoyed what they saw. Some people were not buying it and thought it was kind of lame. I was in the camp of cautiously optimistic. I liked what I saw visually. I liked the aesthetic of it. I liked the characters, the character moments, the emotion behind their interactions through it. But the very end of that story really threw my whole perception off of what is going on. It turned it from like a Terminator or a zombie kind of a book into something different, like a different reason why we're in this situation. And there's a ghostly element to the book I just did not see coming. So for me, it was a big left turn. I didn't know how this was going to settle. I needed a few more issues to figure out where I was going to land with this book. And issue number 2 honestly didn't do a whole lot more to move the needle for me. We didn't get any more answers as to like what is going on or what happened. We're reacting to what happened in the previous issue, which makes sense because our dad gets kidnapped. Now the daughter, the female character, is kind of on her own. She's very well equipped and knows how to navigate the landscape, but she's on the run, but also trying to find her dad at the same time. The villains also were doing some stuff in here that didn't quite make any sense. They're planting the seeds for something future, I guess. Our female character is like hearing voices or being led to some place that ends up to be like a butcher shop. She interacts with the new character. I don't quite understand the relationship there. What is going on? So I felt more and more confused as I read the book. Now, again, visually, I think it was a really strong issue. They're doing a lot of cool things with the coloring and just the white landscape itself. So I thought visually and aesthetically, the book was pretty great, but I haven't been given more reason to really care about these characters other than the fact that we have a emotional attachment to them and now they're separated and we know how scary that could be. So again, I'm really none the wiser as to the popularity of the book. I just need to read a couple more issues maybe to solidify whether or not I want to continue reading it. But I'm anxious to see what you guys are thinking. How much did you like issue number 1? And what'd you think about the whole series after reading issue number 2? All right, guys, that's what I read this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down below what you're reading and what your favorite books of the week are. While you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted whenever I put out new videos. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the comments.